Hello, tonight Inside Out is at Rothley in Leicestershire to ask who are the Madeleine Foundation. The missing 3-year-old's parents say they just add to their anguish.
There's a certain group out there who this is their job really, is to pick on a vulnerable family, and I'm sure after us they'll move on to another family.
And the villagers digging their own broadband network.
This village will be transformed from a location that has broadband that's not fit for purpose, in fact not available, to be literally the fastest village for broadband in the country.
They've been described as a club for sickos who distribute vile leaflets. Their members insist they're only trying to discover what happened to Madeleine McCann. But the parents of the missing youngster say the so-called Madeleine Foundation is hindering the search for their daughter and adding to their anguish. Simon Hare has been investigating.
Well, it's a Saturday afternoon and most people are busy enjoying their weekend. But somewhere here in Nottingham, a group of people have got together to discuss the Madeleine McCann case. Hello, Simon.
Secrecy surrounds what's billed as the annual conference of the self-appointed Madeleine Foundation. They've said I can attend, but I have to wait for news of the location. I'm told to make my way to a hotel with conference facilities, but this proves to be just a meeting place. I'm then taken to the real venue, a room in this village hall at Nuttall. A member takes some photos, including one of me. Chairman Grenville Green from Nottingham is also happy to be pictured, and the organisation's secretary and co-founder, Tony Bennett, is keen to promote his new book, made up of selected extracts from the case files.
There were 19 people at the meeting. I was told that they'd come from all over the country and that one couple had even come from northern France. They didn't want cameras to come in, but they did allow me to sit there and take notes. They discussed many aspects of the McCann case, and they also sold me a copy of their new book. But at the moment, I still don't feel that I'm any nearer to understanding exactly what the Madeleine Foundation is about.
Well, among those reporters was Simon Hare for East Midlands Today. He joins us now from Portugal. Simon,
but I do know something about the Madeleine McCann case.
Good evening, Anne. Yes,
I was part of the East Midlands Today team that covered the events in Portugal. I interviewed the McCanns in Praia da Luz.
It really does give you great strength, really, to see that everybody in the village is, you know, giving us all their support and love and everything.
And 3 months later, I was in Portimão when they were made official suspects.
The crowd of onlookers, hundreds of people had turned out. Many booed Kate McCann as she arrived here. Now,
a development largely thanks to this man, the Portuguese detective Gonçalo Amaral. But he was taken off the case, and in 2008, the McCanns had their suspect status removed.
We welcome the news today, although it is no cause for celebration.
And won libel damages for some of the lurid press coverage they'd received. A year later, front-page news of a different kind, thanks to the Madeleine Foundation.
People living in Madeleine McCann's home village say that they are sickened that they're now being targeted by a campaign to reopen the case against her parents.
A group claiming to want justice for Madeleine says it believes she wasn't abducted. It's been sending hundreds of leaflets around the area calling for support.
It delivered 150 leaflets to homes in the McCann's own neighbourhood, repeating the now discredited Amaral theory that Madeleine had died in her parents' holiday apartment and they'd covered it up.
Now, the people here in Rothley who spoke to us today say they're horrified.
It's absolutely repugnant, I think, personally.
I just think it's sad and sick that people have got nothing else better to do with the time.
I would meet all of the 4 people who delivered the leaflets that day. Among them, Debbie Butler, the Foundation's former chairman and co-founder, who appeared on the BBC to justify their actions.
As I said, it's a nationwide campaign. We need to put the leaflets into as many doors as possible.
She's since fallen out with Tony Bennett and is no longer a member of the foundation, but she agreed to meet me near her home in Kent.
Mr. Bennett decided that we would go to that area. I'd never been there. He'd been there before. I found out that he had been there before. He knew where we were going. I drove. We had Grenville Green with us and Helen Davis, his wife. We visited the farm that Kate had taken the children to and had some lunch there. Mr. Bennett leafleted there alone and instructed me to go and leaflet in the immediate area where the McCanns live, which I did with Helen. And then he told me that I must leaflet their road, which I did. I was doing it with Helen, but Helen's just legs went to jelly and she wouldn't do it, so I did. I didn't leaflet their own home at all.
Tony Bennett denies he told Debbie Butler what to do that day, but both were subsequently pursued by the McCanns' lawyers. And in November last year, Mr. Bennett assured the High Court he wouldn't distribute any more of the leaflets, or he could lose £50,000 and even go to prison for contempt of court.
About the Madeleine McCann case.
But by this summer, Tony Bennett was distributing a new leaflet. He's come to Bristol for what's billed as Gonzalo Amaral Awareness Day. He's accompanied by another foundation member who's a little camera shy.
You're hiding. It's all right, I'm going around this side of the pillar. I'm going around this side of the...
There's some evil people in this.
There are some evil people.
Very evil.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I think she's just been stolen.
You know, why did all these people?
Conspiracy theory around everything now, isn't there?
True. Yeah, but many things. 9/11. Yeah. There is. I mean, people think that we are representing the McCanns in some way.
Doesn't that worry you?
Not really, no, because it's a chance to explain to people what we're about and that there is a big mystery at the heart of this case.
I wouldn't dare say on record what I thought, because I'd be sued.
The NSPCC say that you should never ever leave children of that age on their own, even for 30 seconds.
But they did, and nobody had a right to take her anyway.
No, that's right. People will no doubt have been reading that leaflet as they pass around the town. Not one person has come back to complain at all and say this is outrageous.
But in the afternoon, there are a number of hostile reactions.
It just seems a bit hard to start a whole campaign against it when if she is abducted, they're clearly struggling, dealing with the grief already.
The question is if she was abducted.
And you don't find what you're doing at all disrespectful?
You could call it disrespectful.
Well, I'm not going to read it because I think it's a little bit sick and very disrespectful. So
yeah, that's okay.
I think that's a bit distasteful.
I have a 2-year-old daughter, so you know, if I'd have lost my daughter like that woman has, I wouldn't want to think that somebody was out saying that in the street.
A few days later, after hundreds of copies have been handed out,
thank you.
He agrees to the McCanns' lawyers' demand not to distribute this latest leaflet. They didn't want to talk to us about Tony Bennett's campaign, but on the 3rd anniversary of Madeleine's disappearance, Jerry and Kate McCann seemed to allude to the foundation.
You know, even to this day, there are people who are convinced that you had something to do with it. How on earth do you deal with that?
I think it's changed. Certainly we don't get the same level of criticism that we did, and even then, to be fair, it was the minority really. I think most people, even if they don't agree with you know what we did, then they wouldn't feel it right or fair to add to our suffering. But having said that, I think there's just a small minority now, and there's a certain group out there who this is their job really, is to pick on a vulnerable family, and I'm sure after us they'll move on to another family.
I think she meant you.
I didn't hear that. I don't know whether she meant us or not, but we are focused on this particular case. My focus is on the truth. So the other members and supporters of the Madeleine Foundation is exactly the same. I haven't got any history of pursuing individuals.
Tony Bennett previously tried and failed to bring a private prosecution against the McCanns for child neglect. In 2006, he attempted to mount a private prosecution of Michael Barrymore in relation to the night Stuart Lubbock died at the TV entertainer's home. Another high-profile case at the centre of a media frenzy. Tony Bennett first came to prominence by taking direct action over the metrification of signs.
The majority of people don't want to see kilometres and metres on our road signs.
A cause which won a lot of support.
A little bit higher as if you... That's it, there you go.
He then began removing road signs to campaign for the reintroduction of old county boundaries.
I think the majority of the public would like to see these signs, "Welcome to Lancashire," on the correct Lancashire border.
Unlike some of his Madeline Foundation colleagues, he appears to quite like the cameras and notoriety. Last year, he could be clearly seen sat behind Gerry McCann as he gave evidence to a parliamentary subcommittee on the press and privacy. Tony Bennett later posted on the internet,
"It was to send out a quiet message that we are looking over his shoulder, checking out what he and his team are saying, watching them."
I think for me, it's about responsibility and reporting truth and not making innuendo and speculation appear as fact.
I wonder how some of them can live with themselves.
If it is certain that she was abducted, then we are adding to their anguish.
And does that not bother you? I mean, you're a father, you're a grandfather.
I'm persuaded that there are still questions to be answered, and as I say, and I've got to be careful what I say, but I do question their version of events and whether in fact Madeleine was abducted, as do many other people.
But you don't know what happened. I don't know.
No, I don't.
And only those responsible truly know what happened.
I agree. So we don't know what happened. So why can't we say, why can't we... I mean, after all, if I'm making bad points, if we're making bad points on our website, they can be challenged and refuted easily, can't they?
The internet is awash with forums and message boards about Madeleine. Some of these sites have seen threats of violence made towards the McCanns and their family home here at Rothley. Inside Out understands that the police have become involved in the past. People who post on these forums describe themselves as pro and anti-McCann. Those connected with the Madeleine Foundation have also been subject to threats.
12:30 one night, my phone rang, and I was told I'd be stabbed in front of my son, straight through my heart. I phoned the police. I've had other threats.
The Madeleine Foundation has come to London. They're delivering more letters to both the Portuguese and British governments.
So what happens when you knock on the door, somebody comes and receives it? Okay, yeah.
The latest leaflet that they'd agreed to stop distributing has made a comeback.
Well, we've had a rethink on that. We see no reason why we shouldn't distribute it. We weren't threatened with any libel action or anything like that. We took a decision 3 months ago not to distribute it, but we've reconsidered and see no reason why we shouldn't distribute it, especially on Gonçalo Amaral's birthday.
But in July, the McCann's lawyers, Carter Ruck, had threatened to take Tony Bennett back to the High Court. Their letter felt that the former solicitor had failed to grasp how libel laws work.
If you want any further information, our contact details on the back.
And it said they'd also pursue any other members of the foundation who delivered the leaflets. But our two remaining Rothley leafleters didn't go to London. Grenville Green and his wife Helene Davis Green have stepped down from the foundation committee after she was described by The Sun as a sicko who distributes vile leaflets.
Most people will avoid these because some of them are poisonous.
She was back in the public eye as she stood as a UKIP candidate in the general election.
Apparently, throwing out the odd insult isn't breaking their code of conduct.
It's an example of free speech that her husband doesn't like. At the beginning of the year, Grenville Green went to Portugal to attend a court hearing about Gonzalo Amaral's controversial book.
Why am I here? It's freedom of speech, isn't it? If someone has a difference of opinion to someone else, you shouldn't have lots of money to close you down and shut you up and make you quiet if you've got a difference of opinion. This is why I'm here. So it's freedom of speech, freedom of expression.
Is your book hurting the McCann, sir? Is your book hurting the McCanns?
No. This man is a folk hero. He's sort of a modern day Robin Hood, if you like. It's like a David and Goliath fight. If something's right, you know it's right. If something's wrong, you know it's wrong.
There are always going to be those who entirely believe the McCann's account and regard me as evil and perverted for what I'm doing. On the other hand, there are those who have got legitimate questions and fully support what we're doing.
Earlier this month, the McCanns launched an online petition calling for the investigation into their daughter's disappearance to be independently reviewed.
There's absolutely no evidence that Madeleine has been seriously harmed, so without that we've got to believe that we can still find her. It's difficult, we know that, and that's why we're asking for help. We need assistance and the authorities need to do more.
Last week the McCanns revealed that they are now writing their own book. In a statement on their website, Kate McCann said, "My reason for writing is simple, to give an account of the truth." Just like that GMTV interview, I can't help but feel that that was partly aimed at the Madeleine Foundation.
Fast broadband has been described as the fourth utility, up there with gas, water and electricity, as essential for businesses and communities. So why is it that so many people here in the East Midlands struggle with such a slow and unreliable service? And is it putting the brakes on the regional economy? Well, we asked the presenter of the BBC's Click programme, Spencer Kelly, to find out what's going on.
Not so long ago, this was the way we used to send large files of information from one end of the country to the other.
You wrapped it up, popped it in the post, and let the train take the strain.
This is the night mail crossing the border, bringing the cheque and the postal order.
Railways revolutionised the postal service. If your community didn't have access to the rail network, you were in trouble. Your business suffered. Your community was cut off.
Letters for the rich, letters for the poor, the shop at the corner of the girl next door. Pulling up, he took a steady climb, the gradients against her, but she's on time.
Hey, look, it's a visual metaphor. All right. So, in the 19th and 20th century, connecting to your market and sending information was all about the road and rail networks. Of course, in the 21st century, this is how you send large files at the click of a mouse. Problem is, what happens if you're not connected to the network?
In this quiet corner of Lincolnshire, they know what it's like to be cut off from the outside world. They even struggle to get a mobile signal. And in the battle for broadband, they're not going to take it anymore. Erin Bauer has run civil defence supply from Ashby Hall since 1978.
Is it over? Hi, I'm Spencer.
Nice to be here.
Can we go and talk about your broadband problems?
Yeah, let's go and
All
talk
right,
broadband.
okay.
Erin's company not only supplies stun grenades and tasers, they train police forces around the world using virtual reality computer software.
Yeah, good shooting. We're now sending very large files all over the world. We've got millions of pounds worth of software here training police in judgment of why they shoot or not shoot. And I can't join one computer to another because we just don't have the bandwidth or the connectivity.
Erin's a county councillor, so he knows the problems Lincolnshire faces getting fast broadband. And it turns out Ashby Hall is in, well, just the wrong place.
Well, we've got a strange shape of land where there's a flat top of the hill, dipping down into the flat bit where the lake is and Ashby Hall, and then it dips yet again down to this part below us. And we're in a radio no spot. The biggest problem we are facing here is this village is very small. It's not viable for BT to put a connection in here. Yet we were on holiday in Crete in the middle of nowhere, And right on the north coast at City, there's a little internet cafe with blistering service. We are very, very far behind.
Erin's not the only one who's frustrated. Down the road, Nikki Smith and her teenage daughters have had enough of living in a broadband not spot.
Hello, yes I am. You must be Spencer.
I am. So Nikki, tell me about your broadband woes.
We had an ISDN engineer come out to the house and he tested it all and he said we're just simply too far away from the exchange to get any kind of signal here.
Kim, you're in the middle of your GCSEs, yeah?
I am.
Do you need the internet for your studies?
Yeah, I do, because I've got a lot of coursework-based subjects. I need to look up information for research and it's quite hard for me to do when the internet doesn't work.
There's so much out there that we just simply don't have access to or have limited access to. And why should we miss out just because we live in a rural place?
So, the 47 houses in Ashby de la Londe have decided they're tired of waiting. They're digging their own super-fast broadband network. They've brought in an external company to lay the fibre optic ring main around the village, and then each household will dig their own connection across the back garden to keep costs down.
They're always telling us that fibre's good for us. Well, it's good for your computer too, although it's not that kind of fibre. It's this kind of fibre, and it's basically a very fast internet connection. Now, I'll give you an example. If I was to take a photo of our gorgeous cameraman Darren, smile, and I was to try and upload that to the web using a normal copper telephone line, like most of us have, it would take about 30 seconds to do. If I was to send that photo on its way using something like this, it would go faster than I can say fibre.
So go have a look?
Yes, definitely.
Today, villagers are getting the chance to see how it's going to work.
We use compressed air to blow the fibre optic cable down them.
Yeah.
From the Digital Village pump, which is the building just here that you can see, individually into everybody's home. And that's how we actually get the fibre optic into everybody.
The DIY approach has got the whole village excited.
And this sounds like a bit of a poke in the eye to the big institutions. You're getting down and doing it yourself.
We do it ourselves, yes, absolutely. We've tried everything. We've tried satellite, we've tried asking our MP, the head of BT, everything. So we were really excited when we thought, yes, we can get this fibre optic broadband in the village.
Fibrestream has spent more than £100,000 on the Ashby network. They'll get their money back by charging each house a £125 connection fee and then about £30 a month. And because this is a community interest company, any profits will go straight back to the village.
One of the really important points about this project is by getting everybody together as a community, there is not a penny of taxpayers' money involved in this project. And so from that point of view, it's something that can be replicated by other communities in deeply rural areas across the country.
20% of rural areas in the country still have no adequate broadband, and it's a situation that if it continues to exist as it is now, then the economic potential of rural areas to the economy will be significantly reduced. We're saying that it could cost the country £60 billion if rural areas do not have broadband.
To understand where we are now with our broadband, let's go back to our model railway.
Lots of different companies use the rail network, but the actual rails themselves are owned by Network Rail.
In the same way, to get broadband, most households and businesses in the East Midlands might pay their bills to different companies, but they still rely on the old copper network, almost all of it owned by the BT Group. Even though BT's been broken up, smaller companies say when they negotiate to use the lines, it can still feel like a monopoly. At Liddington in Rutlands, they had the same problem as Ashby, but they've come up with a different solution.
Today is the day that we're going formally to open the broadband service into Liddington.
Tiny Rutland Telecom has installed its own fibre optic green cabinet bang next door to BT's. It's as if they've moved the exchange 15 miles closer to the village. And those who sign up for their service pay Rutland Telecom for everything. No line rental goes to BT. But it did take 2 years of sheer persistence to get this far.
effectively, you start by assuming that the division of BT called Openreach would be working with you, but the reality is they're still an enormous organisation, and it became, we came to the realisation that it was a bit of a David and Goliath situation, and we just weren't going to give up. We had the village behind us, we had the regulators behind us, and even people from the big operators, Carphone Warehouse and Sky, were saying, don't give up, go for it. You are in the right, and you will achieve what you want to achieve.
Even when you've got access to the lines, it's not easy to speed up your connection.
The copper network, which carries most of our broadband, was laid down in the last century, and it was made for telephones, not computers. Now, because copper can only carry a certain amount of data, when lots of people pour online, the brakes really go on. It's called contended lines.
Okay, different analogy now. The way most of us are charged for our broadband at home is a bit like this.
Hi. Could I have a pint, please?
Sure. There you go.
No, I paid you for a pint.
We're really busy today, sorry.
See, on our broadband bill, it says that we pay for up to 8 megabits per second. But we share that line, which means when things get busy, we don't get anything like what we think we paid for. And that's just downloading stuff. If you're uploading large files like video or photos, well, you really are going to need a fibre optic connection. Cheers.
I think the key point is that we're moving towards kind of a knowledge economy. And what does that mean? That means that we trade ideas, we exchange ideas. That's a two-way process, and that's why next generation broadband and fibre is really important.
But relying on copper isn't just a problem for rural areas. Even in the middle of Nottingham, businesses struggle to get the speeds they need. Antenna is home to companies such as Spool Post-Production. They've recently finished work on This Is England 86.
We're dealing with moving high-definition video and large audio files backwards and forwards between our clients. If a client wants assets from us the next day, we would have to send it overnight because it's the time when the actual connection is at its quietest. It's crazy. It is actually quicker to send assets in the post, which is just wrong, I think. In the 21st century, to me, it's just crackers.
We had a company over from Japan. They were very interested in Nottingham because of its centre of the games industry. But they were also looking at areas like London because they found it easier to get the connection speeds they needed. We need to be connected with the rest of the world, and we need to be on par with the rest of the world.
What is interesting is if we look at our international competitors like Japan, Korea, they're investing in next generation broadband because they think it's hugely important for their future. And I think that the UK should take a precautionary principle and make that investment rather than waiting to learn it got it wrong.
Letters of thanks, letters from banks, letters of joy from the girl and the boy, receipted bills and invitations to inspect new stock or visit relations, and applications for situations and timid lovers, declarations and gossip from all the nations.
And all of that now happens on the internet.
Just a few years ago, who would have thought that now we'd be downloading TV programmes at the click of a mouse? I mean, who knows what we'll be using our computers for in the future? So the question is, if broadband really is the fourth utility, are we really happy to just sit back and let the market provide? Or is it time for some joined up thinking?
That's it from Rothley in Leicestershire. See you next Monday. Bye-bye.
Next week, times are tough, so why won't councils sell their posh number plates?
On the open market, you wouldn't get a lot of change out of £500,000.
That is absolutely astounding.